Life Audio.
The Bible Study Podcast, episode 905. Today, the Bible Study Podcast continues the study of the intertestamental period and the book of 1 Maccabees with chapter 14. Welcome to the Bible Study Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Christensen. We are wrapping up this study. I think there are 3 chapters left, counting today's episode. We start here with the capture of Demetrius, but first a word from this sponsor. So Demetrius, you may remember, is the son of the previous king, all of these descendants of Antiochus Epiphanes, who started this whole mess here in the book of Maccabees. But Trypho has taken over the country. He was a usurper, one of the generals who has usurped the throne. And so Demetrius tries to go to get help. It does not work well. In the 172nd year, King Demetrius assembled his forces and marched into Media to obtain help so that he could make war against Trypho. When King Arsaces of Persia and Media heard that Demetrius had invaded his territory, he sent one of his generals to take him alive. The general went and defeated the army of Demetrius and seized him and took him to Arsaces, who put him under guard. And then we get the eulogy of Simon, and I think this is a eulogy of Simon, but Simon's not dead. So it's an odd place for this to show up in the narrative. We won't get to the death of Simon till next week. A little spoiler there. But this is a eulogy of Simon. The land had rest all the days of Simon. He sought the good of his nation. His rule was pleasing to them, as was the honor shown him all his days. To crown all his honors, he took Joppa for a harbor. He opened a way to the isles of the sea. He extended the borders of his nation. He gained full control of the country. He gathered a host of captives. He ruled over Gazara and Beth Zur and the citadel, and he removed its uncleanness from it. And there was none to oppose him. They tilled their land in peace. The ground gave its increase, and the trees of the plains their fruit. Old men sat on the streets. They all talked together of good things, and the youths put on splendid military attire. He supplied the towns with food and furnished them with the means of defense, until his renown spread to the ends of the earth. He established peace in the land, and Israel rejoiced with great joy. All the people sat under their own vines and fig trees, and there was none to make them afraid. No one was left in the land to fight them, and the kings were crushed in those days. He gave help to all the humble among his people. He sought out the law and did away with all the renegades and outlaws. He made the sanctuary glorious and added to the vessels of the sanctuary. So basically, you may recall that in last episode, in last chapter, Simon took over and Simon achieved the independence from the Seleucid kingdom that they have been craving ever since they had this dust up with Antiochus Epiphanes, who tried to make the Jewish religion go away. So they finally took back the citadel, which was that fortress of the Seleucid Empire in Jerusalem. They finally were told that you don't have to pay us taxes anymore. They have, in essence, independence. And this eulogy of Simon, which will be given after his death, which we haven't talked about yet, basically is saying it was good with Simon. Everything went well. So you may remember in your 9th grade English class that the teacher would talk about how the action in a novel goes up to a point that is the peak or the climax, and then you have the denouement, that point where we wrap things up. We're in that point of the story right now. The climax was last week. That chapter where they finally get their independence, that's the climax of the story, and now some things are wrapping up. And the people are remembering how good they had it under Simon. Diplomacy with Rome and Sparta. It was heard in Rome and as far away as Sparta that Jonathan had died, and they were deeply grieved. When they heard that his brother Simon had become high priest in his stead, and that he was ruling over the country and the towns in it, they wrote to him on bronze tablets to renew with him the friendship and alliance they had established with his brothers Judas and Jonathan. and these were read before the assembly in Jerusalem. This is a copy of the letter the Spartans sent, the ruler and the city of the Spartans, to the high priest Simon, and to the elders and the priests and the rest of the Jewish people, our brothers, greetings. The envoys who were sent to our people have told us about your glory and honor, and we rejoiced at their coming. We have recorded what they said in our public decrees as follows. Numenius, son of Antiochus, and Antipater, son of Jason, envoys of the Jews, have come to us to renew their friendship with us. It has pleased our people to receive these men with honor and to put a copy of their words in the public archives so that the people of the Spartans may have a record of them. And they have sent a copy of this to the high priest Simon. After this, Simon sent Numenius to Rome with a large gold shield weighing 1,000 minas to confirm the alliance with the Romans. Also, Simon has carried on this peaceful relationship with Rome and Sparta, and first we get the Spartans saying, we're still friends. We've received your envoys, and we still want to have this alliance that we had founded with your brothers. I did think it was a little odd to say it was heard in Rome and as far away as Sparta. Now, I don't know how your geography is, but Sparta is much closer to Judea than Rome is, so that was an odd sentence, but basically we are still friends with Sparta here. Official honors for Simon. When the people heard these things, they said, how shall we thank Simon and his sons? For he and his brothers and the house of his father have stood firm. They have fought and repulsed Israel's enemies and established its freedom. So they made a record on bronze tablets and put it on pillars on Mount Zion. This is a copy of what they wrote. On the 18th day of Elul, in the 172nd year, which is the third year of the great high priest Simon, in Asaramel, in the great assembly of the priests and the people and the rulers of the nation and the elders of the country, the following was proclaimed to us. Since wars often occurred in the country, Simon, son of Mattathias, of the clan of Joorab, and his brothers exposed themselves to the danger and resisted the enemies of their nation in order that their sanctuary and the law might be preserved. And they brought great glory to their nation. Jonathan rallied the nation, became their high priest, and was gathered to his people. When their enemies decided to invade their country and lay hands on their sanctuary, then Simon rose up and fought for his nation. He spent great sums of his own money. He armed the soldiers of his nation and paid them wages. He fortified the towns of Judea and Beth Zur on the borders of Judea, where formerly the arms of the enemy had been stored, and he placed there a garrison of Jews. He also fortified Joppa, which is by the sea, and Gazara, which is on the borders of Azotus, where the enemy formerly lived. He settled Jews there and provided in those towns whatever was necessary for their restoration. The people saw Simon's faithfulness and the glory that he had resolved to win for his nation, and they made him their leader and high priest because he had done all these things, and because of the justice and loyalty that he had maintained toward his nation. He sought in every way to exalt his people. In his days things prospered in his hands, so that the nations were put out of the country, as were those in the city of David in Jerusalem, who had built themselves a citadel from which they used to sally forth and defile the environs of the sanctuary, doing great damage to its purity. He settled Jews in it and fortified it for the safety of the country and of the city, and built the walls of Jerusalem higher. In view of these things, King Demetrius confirmed him in the high priesthood, made him one of his friends, and paid him high honors, for he had heard that the Jews were addressed by the Romans as friends and allies and brothers, and that the Romans had received the envoys of Simon with honor. The Jews and their priests have resolved that Simon should be their leader and high priest forever, until a trustworthy prophet should arise, and that he should become governor over them, and appoint officials over its tasks and over the country and the weapons and the strongholds, and that he should take charge of the sanctuary, and there he should be obeyed by all, and that all contracts in the country should be written in his name, and that he should be clothed in purple and wear gold. None of the people or priests shall be permitted to nullify any of these decisions, or to oppose what he says, or to convene an assembly in the country without his permission, or to be clothed in purple or put on a gold buckle. Whoever acts contrary to these decisions or rejects any of them shall be liable to punishment. All the people agreed to grant Simon the right to act in accordance with these decisions. So Simon accepted and agreed to be high priest, to be commander and ethnarch of the Jews and priests, and to be protector of them all. And he gave orders to inscribe this decree on bronze tablets, to put them up in a conspicuous place in the precincts of the sanctuary, and to deposit copies of them in the treasury so that Simon and his sons might have them. As we're winding things up here, the people are acknowledging Simon and his brothers and their father and what they have done, and they're basically taking all of this authority and putting it on Simon and officially saying Simon should wear purple. Purple is the sign of a king, and wear gold. And it's this interesting thing here where we have this rule now, and it's very official. This is no longer a wartime sort of thing where, Simon, you're our commander, but you're now our leader. And Simon is, in strange way, both priest and king, kind of in the order of Melchizedek, if I can get back to either the quotes from the New Testament or the time that happens in the Old Testament where they run across the king of Salem, who is both priest and king. Simon is that, and his son will take on after him in that same role. And some interesting things will happen in the time of his son, which we'll get to in the next two chapters. But basically at this point, it is now established that we have had success under Simon and that we're continuing under Simon. Simon is our leader. Simon is our ruler. And with that, we will continue to wrap up this story here over the next couple weeks, and then we'll go on to something else. I think we'll go on to something in the New Testament, and I think we'll be covering a book that we have done before, because I have a hankering to go back to the New Testament, probably to the Gospel of Luke is my current thought. But send me your ideas. With that, we'll end this episode of the Bible Study Podcast. If you have any questions, send an email to chris2x@gmail.com, or better yet, leave a comment on this episode at thebiblestudypodcast.com. And thanks so much for listening. I want to take just a second to thank the team at Life Audio for their partnership with us on this podcast. If you go to lifeaudio.com, you'll find dozens of other faith-centered podcasts in their network. They've got shows about prayer, Bible study, parenting, and more.
It's a crazy world out there, moms and dads. I'm Catherine Seegers, host of Christian Parent, Crazy World, the podcast that tackles tough topics to help you be a godly parent in an ungodly world. Subscribe at lifeaudio.com.